When people hear the saying Mickey Mouse ring, no doubt everybody thinks of the Lakers' 2020 bubble ring. Some reasons include the fact that there were no fans at all, so the noise, energy in the arenas was much lower. Not every single team was invited to the bubble. The teams with the worst records in the league didn't even participate. And the fact that people seem to make an asterisk for whenever LeBron James wins a ring. But what if I told you that this Lakers ring is not really a Mickey Mouse ring at all? And even more, there's another team's championship run that in my opinion could be considered much more of a quote-unquote Mickey Mouse ring than the Lakers. In this video, we will cover how the Lakers ring is actually not a Mickey Mouse run and how this other championship run should really take the title for being the most Mickeyest ring. Now obviously people are going to be upset if I call their ring a Mickey Mouse ring, so huge disclaimer, every ring is a ring. The team made the best of their circumstances to win the ring, and it can't be taken away from them. The team that won the Mickey Mouse ring, in my opinion, still played the best in the league with their given circumstances, and just because a ring is the easiest path, doesn't mean it has any less value. But enough of me rambling. We're gonna first examine the Lakers championship run, and then this other team with their Mickey run. If you guys do enjoy these videos, make sure to leave a like and subscribe. It helps the channel out a lot. You guys are the best viewer base one could ask for. Let's get into this video. So the bubble. The infamous stage of the NBA due to the pandemic. NBA teams had to keep a bubble as to not spread the virus throughout the NBA. Teams were pretty much only allowed to play games, practice, and chill at their hotel room. In addition, the games that were played had no fans whatsoever, just to prevent the spread of the pandemic. The season had to be postponed, so it was shortened in games, as most teams only played 62 compared to the normal 82 we see in the average NBA season. 22 of the 30 NBA teams participated, with the 8 teams with the lowest records not making the cut. And obviously, everybody knows that in this odd period in NBA history, the Lakers would be the team to capitalize and to win the championship in the bubble. Because of this abstract and much different playing field from we usually see, people tend to discredit the Lakers ring as not being legitimate, a Mickey Mouse ring, fraudulent, and other things like that. But when you look at the bubble on a more closer examination, you can see that there were many aspects that actually made the road to the championship tougher for the Lakers than the average team. Now, obviously, the main reason people say that the bubble ring is a Mickey Mouse ring is the fact that there was no fan interactions. But if you look at where the Lakers were seated, no fans actually hurt the Lakers. The Lakers this season had the 5th best home record in the league. So obviously, them playing home had a positive impact on the way that they played. They finished as the 1 seed in the Western Conference, so they would have had home court advantage throughout the entire playoffs unless they faced the Milwaukee in the NBA championship. But Milwaukee did end up losing in the second round to Miami, but that is besides the point. The Lakers had home court advantage taken away from them due to this bubble atmosphere. So if anything, considering that they had home court advantage, this definitely hurt the Lakers' run, making it more difficult to get that needed momentum from their fans. Another thing with the no fans is that it brings basketball to its more pure form. For example, it's just a 5-on-5 game, all players with nothing but them in the court. No outside interactions or factors that affect how the game plays out. When removing the fan aspect, basketball, skill, and teamwork weigh heavier than ever before. Another aspect that makes no sense that people argue when talking about the Mickey Mouse ring is the fact that the practices were completely different. All 16 teams had to experience this pandemic. No team was prepared better, it caught everybody by surprise. Every team had to adapt to this new situation. So once again, you could argue that it's even more impressive for the Lakers to adapt just as quick or even quicker than the rest of the league. Another thing to look at regarding the play in the bubble is that you see countless NBA players saying that it was some of the toughest and highest level of basketball that they've ever played. You have players like Damian Lillard, LeBron James, and others just emphasizing how tough of a place it was and how much more motivated they were to play their best basketball as they couldn't even contact their families, they were locked out from the outside world, and really all they had in that moment was basketball. All these facts just continue to prove that it was arguably the highest form of basketball played. It also happened to be one of the healthier NBA playoffs we've ever seen, and that's largely to the fact that the season was postponed. The bubble started with a couple regular season games to kind of get back into the flow of things, but the playoffs quickly started. So a lot of the players were still well rested from that break that they had due to the pandemic. You look around the league at injuries and there always will be some injuries, as that's just a part of basketball, but they were so minor. The 2 biggest injuries of the season prior was Goran Dragic tearing his foot in the finals, and I guess Ben Simmons being sidelined the first round due to his knee injury. You look around the league and you see other players just miss little bits of time but come back. Another thing to keep in mind is the fact that currently in the NBA playoffs, the top 4 teams, at least as I'm recording this, is Denver, Los Angeles, Miami, and Boston. And those all were the top 4 teams in the bubble, which once again proves that the bubble playoffs weren't necessarily a fluke, but the best teams will always find ways to win. Also, all 4 teams are pretty gosh darn similar to how they are today. They have the same cores, the same top 2 players on each team. Obviously, some depth changes, but as far as the span of a couple years goes, these teams have stayed pretty similar. We also see similar upsets happening, like in both playoffs, this playoffs and the bubble playoffs. Miami completes a huge upset on the Milwaukee Bucks. So the bubble playoffs aren't too far from this year's playoffs. And last but certainly not least, to add to this plethora of reasons on why the bubble playoffs should be valued more, is the fact that the Lakers cruised through these playoffs. Now, it's no surprise that they won the championship at a high rate, considering that they had the second best record in the league, even before the lockdown. So their success obviously wasn't because of the bubble, it was rather the talent on their team and the success that they had throughout the year. And when you look at the playoffs, they only lost 5 times throughout their entire playoff run, having a 16-5 record. They beat the Blazers, Rockets, and Nuggets all in the Western Conference in quick 5-game series, and then they finished off with Miami winning in a 6-game series that felt like much more of a blowout than a 6-game series. As every game the Lakers won, they won in a dominant fashion, and the 2 games that the Miami Heat won, they squeaked out. So obviously, this success was not determined by the bubble. The success and the ring that the Lakers have accomplished in the 2020 season was all of their doing. They adapted the best to the conditions. They succeeded despite having home court taken away from them, and throughout the entire season, they happened to be the most talented team. Now, enough of me talking about how the Lakers is not a fraudulent ring. Let me get to the actual playoff run that is much more Mickey Mouse worthy than the Lakers ring. Now, once again, I just want to clarify, the fact that this ring might be the most fraudulent does not mean that it doesn't count. Still, the players on this team worked very hard, and they were the team that made the best of their situation throughout the postseason, and that's why at the end of the day, they have a ring. And if we're going by a playoff run basis, the team that has the most fraudulent, or say Mickey Mouse run in this era is the next season 2021 Milwaukee Bucks. Now, there are a handful of reasons that the Milwaukee Bucks ring simply is Mickey Mouse-like. Now, I hate saying that because every single ring counts, and every single ring has a team that made the best of their situation, adapted, and won it in the long run, which is all you can ask for. But that being said, there was a lot of things that the Bucks had going right for them that maybe they necessarily did not deserve. The Bucks ended the regular season as the number 3 seed. Both Brooklyn and Philadelphia were the 2 and 1 seeds respectively. Milwaukee was definitely not the best regular season performer, but they could easily turn it around in the playoffs. And that's what they just did. In the first round, they swept Miami, getting their revenge from the previous season. And there was nothing fraudulent about that series whatsoever, as they handily done away with Miami, with no extra factors. However, it's really the next round against Brooklyn where things start to get hairy. Obviously, this Bucks-Nets series is one of the most infamous series in recent history. Coming into this series, Brooklyn was definitely the better team. They had the more star-studded lineup led by KD, Kyrie, and James Harden, with a solid supporting cast, as well as finishing with a better record and the number 2 seed, so they had home court for this playoff series. Now, it's this series in particular that, in my opinion, is the main reason that this Bucks championship run is more fraudulent than the Lakers run. Obviously, one of the main aspects is injuries. So Brooklyn quickly jumped to a 2-0 comfortable lead in the series. Teams with a 2-0 lead generally win about 93% of the time. Really, some of the only instances that a team comes back from being down 2-0 is some other factors such as injury, and that is exactly what happened in this series. So on paper, when all 3 of the Brooklyn starters were on the court, they were dominating the Bucks. Started off with a 2-0 series lead. However, everybody knows of Kyrie Irving's high ankle sprain in Game 3 that would sideline him for the rest of the playoffs. That was a huge turning point of the momentum because the Bucks really haven't been showing anything to make you think they'd win the series up until that point. Along with that, Harden was battling a hamstring injury in that same playoff series, missing games 2, 3, and 4. So if you add that up, that is 3 games where the Nets were missing 2 players from their big 3, and only 1 game in the series where all 3 of them were playing. And sure enough, they won because on paper they are the better team. So injuries completely derailed this series for Brooklyn. This allowed the Bucks to return into the series, as in games 3 and 4 they took advantage of the fact that there was no Kyrie or Harden. And may I also add that they only won those games by small amounts, when in reality, they should be blowing out this team if it's just Kevin Durant. At Game 5, the series was tied 2-2, and Harden came back from his injury very hobbled. In the playoff games previous to his hamstring injury, in games that he fully played, he averaged 27.8 points. However, after he returned from his injury, which was Game 5 and on from the Bucks series, he halved his shooting efficiency and points per game, only averaging 14.3. So it was very clear that this hamstring injury was nagging at his performance completely. And with that said, these Kevin Durant Nets with a extremely hobbled Harden and an injured Kyrie, who didn't even see time for the rest of this series, still managed to split games 5 and 6 with the Milwaukee Bucks roster. Along with that, in Game 7, they still were able to force an overtime as well. And everybody knows the reason that that game went into overtime. Kevin Durant's feet were on the line. His game-tying shot should have been a game winner if he was just slightly 1 inch back, and the rest would be history, and I definitely see the Brooklyn Nets being champions if they had a healthy team. But basketball history did not see it that way. And I know you can't necessarily blame that Kevin Durant shot as a fraudulent run for the Bucks, as basketball really is a game of inches, so moments like this happen all the time, where maybe a shot just barely misses and could completely change the outcome of a game. But it's more of the fact that the Nets were so hobbled that the fact that the series was even determined by an inch to begin with clearly shows all the evidence needed that a fully healthy Nets team would have probably beaten this Bucks team in 6. Maybe even 5 with how the trajectory was going on during the series. But I do think Giannis would put up some very notable performances, forcing it to 6 games. In the next round, they faced Atlanta, which they legitimately won. No really outside factors. Trae Young was injured 2 games, but Giannis was also injured 2 games, and Giannis is definitely a bigger part of the Bucks team as Trae Young is to the Hawks team. And the Bucks made much better of their situation than the Hawks did. So for any Hawks fans saying that the reason they lost was because Trae Young was injured, think again, because obviously Giannis' hyperextension sidelined him for 2 games as well. Except the Bucks actually knew how to recover from that injury, and that meant that the Bucks were in the NBA Finals against the Phoenix Suns. Now, as far as this Bucks vs Suns series, it was an even playing field. There weren't any notable injuries throughout this entire series. However, the best team in the West that season didn't even make it out, and that was the Los Angeles Clippers. Los Angeles was on a roll with Kawhi Leonard. However, everybody knows that Kawhi Leonard was sidelined for the rest of the postseason and the next season with the injury he faced against the Utah Jazz. And he was the Clippers' best player. And the Clippers managed to force 6 games against the Suns without their star player. Being without your best player and forcing 6 games in any series, in my opinion, usually would be a win for the team if they had their star player. I think the Clippers definitely were better if we saw the healthy duo of Kawhi and Paul George. And I think they were the better team than Phoenix that year. That being said, we should have got a Clippers vs Bucks finals. I mean, we should have got a Clippers vs Nets finals, but if we're going on this Bucks winning continuum, then Clippers vs Bucks. And in that case, it would have been a better series than what we've got. Even though the Suns forced 6 games, the Clippers, in my opinion, were a better team that season. And I think the series honestly would have gone to 7 against Milwaukee. I still think I would have given the edge to Milwaukee, but at that point, it would be a toss-up in Game 7 between these 2 teams. And with Kawhi's experience with his 2 finals MVPs and only winning a finals 2 seasons before this, that experience definitely could have pushed him over the top against the Bucks on this stage. That being said, there's no way to tell what could happen except speculation, so this is all open-ended thought. But with all these factors, including 2021 being the most injured postseason in recent memory, that is why I personally believe that the Bucks run is a little more fraudulent than the Lakers run, and more of a quote-unquote Mickey Mouse run. Also, just one other slight rebuttal for anybody who thinks that the Lakers run was Mickey Mouse but not the Bucks run. Obviously, the main problem people have with the Lakers run is the no crowd interactions, no fan experience. But the 2021 postseason had a lot of games where there were no fans as well. They were played in their own stadiums, but there were some stadiums that were just completely empty. It was limited capacity throughout the entire playoffs, so that also hindered the crowd noise as well to a large extent. But still, in my opinion, I think that the Bucks ring is the most fraudulent championship run that we've seen in recent history. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. I hope you guys did enjoy. I never really like making videos like these because I never really like to call any ring fraudulent. The team that wins the ring makes the best out of their situation and adapts better than every other single team in the postseason. So obviously this is no credit taken away from the Bucks as they adapted to injury. Despite Giannis' hyperextension, they still made it to the finals, and of course Giannis dominated in the finals, especially in that Game 6. There's no such thing as a non-legit ring, even going back to the formation of the league. Every ring is legit. Every team is on the same playing field and is forced to make adaptations, and it all depends on which team adapts the best. Really, the only reason I made this video is because I love having this argument with other people, especially my friends, and I thought I'd make a video on it because it's a very interesting video to make. Make sure you guys comment if you agree with my thoughts. If you completely disagree, obviously that's fine. This is a very controversial topic. And I apologize to any Bucks fans out there I might have offended in the making of this video. But yeah, like I said, comment any thoughts, video suggestions, any other points you'd like to bring up when comparing these two playoff runs. You guys are the best viewer base one could ask for. I love you guys, and I'll see you guys in the next Heaps video.